but these are some of the best competitors in the game. They want more. They want the glory. They want the title. They want to be the one to hoist this trophy. You mentioned, Kyle, this is a mirror match. Regidrago V-Star was dominant in our Masters division. 4 players using it in our top 8, 2 of them making it to the finals. While it is a mirror, there are quite a few differences here that are a pretty big deal.
Yeah, we'll be excited to get into that, but first, look at the talent that we have here. Brent Tonisson with that regional championship just this year, and along with that top 16 at NAIC, looking to continue to build on some incredible results. We know that this all culminates in all those travel stipends, that first place overall in all of the ranking system, but it means nothing to him unless he has that championship to go along with it.
Over on Miloslav's end, he's had some incredible performances at all levels of events. 2 top 16 finishes at the World Championships in the last 3 years, a top 32 this season at the Lille Regional Championships. He did have to defeat his friend Daniel in the top 4. They were playing the exact same 60 cards to get to this point. So from that semifinal on, we were guaranteed to have a Regidrago mirror here in the finals.
Yeah, we saw that strategy, the dive, and roll, or the roll, and dive. It feels like a fire drill almost. We'll see if that's going to be the plan this time around against Brent Tonisson, or do you have to mix it up a bit? A lot of differences in the deck, as you mentioned. Even though it is a mirror, we could see a plethora of attacks from either player.
Plenty of options, plenty of attacks, and a lot of decisions to be made as well. I've been very impressed by both of these players thus far on the weekend. Extremely high-level play, which of course you would be expecting to see 2 players get to this point.
See which of these players gets to go first. That was also a big point of contention going into the top 4 matches. What do you think here, Chip? Do you think Miloslav wants to go for that second again, or?
That's what he was going for in that true 60-card mirror up against his friend and testing partner, Daniel. Now, he did hint to us in his interview yesterday that he believes a huge part of that decision to go second was because it was the exact 60-card mirror. They knew exactly what each other had. And I'm sure Miloslav is well aware of the different options that Brent Tonisson has on his side that are a bit different from what Daniel had in the top 4 match. So it definitely could be something that Miloslav decides to change up. I do think that Radiant Charizard on Brent's end is something that is going to be very important in this match for him.
Yes, paying attention to the prize race, trying to map out those prize cards optimally is going to be very key in a matchup like this. You know, both players are thinking about that as they are preparing for one of the most important matches they've ever seen.
So much has led to this point for both of these competitors. Miloslav has not won a tournament, I believe, at the high level dating back to 2019, 2018, so it has been quite some time. He finds himself now on this final stage once again. Brent Tonisson, like you mentioned, just last season, he had a 2nd place at a regional championships. He won a regional championships in his home country of Australia, and now he's looking to add one more thing to his long, long list of accolades. You know, for years and years, we've been having these international championships, and ever since the beginning, Brent Tonisson is a name that has been coming up consistently. He has cashed at so many of these events, making top 64, making top 32, top 16, and even a few top 8s in the mix. But this is by far the farthest he's made it.
Yes, racking up the frequent flyer miles. He has done a great job of that, and it's also been a very rewarding experience for him too. He's made it into so many of these higher ranking systems. He's been at the top 5, top 1, and he's doing that again now. He's got an opportunity to build on that, not only with the championship, but guarantee that for another ride. And for Miloslav, was placed 20th going into this tournament, now will be top 4 seeding for even more of those travel awards.
Yeah, I believe has been in the top 22 of the European region dating back to 2018. That's quite an impressive streak to keep up all these years. There are so many strong players from across the European region.
I don't know if we've seen the flip of the die just yet, but it has to be something that both players are thinking of. Does Miloslav stick with the strategy here, or does he mix it up as we get into this mirror match?
And the question as well for Brent, after seeing Miloslav's top 4 match, does he want to go first?
Brent had
second?
to make the choice. We'll see.
We'll get update here very, very soon. Yeah, I got a little bit of a note from both of the players heading into this match. Brent stayed up late into the night with his friends, his testing partners, working on this matchup. I'm sure both of these players, you know, now that they've been streamed a few times, Their friends have been able to get the deck lists. They've been able to figure out exactly what 60 cards are on the other side of the table. So Brent spent the night testing. Miloslav on the other end had a nice meal, had himself a nice drink, and got ready for this final match.
He's got plenty of time to think about it, and sure enough, Brent may have made a big choice here now. He chose to go second. He listened to the interview. He knows Miloslav wants it. So he says, nope, that's mine. I'm going to have that opportunity to be the player playing the first supporter and maybe the first Cleffa.
We do see these prize cards going out, and a big deal right away for Brent. Radiant Charizard and a Hoot Hoot in the prizes. On Miloslav's end, 3 energy cards and that ever-important Prime Catcher A-Spec.
If you're looking to give up that first prize to your opponent and it be a single prize Pokemon, you're left with Cleffa now. That's basically it at this point. And for Miloslav, it's devastating to see 3 of those energies, knowing especially that only 2 fires are featured in this list as opposed to Brent's 3.
And we saw that be a little bit of a factor in his top 4 game. He still was able to navigate a position to get the win in game number 3, but that fire being prized was a big deal. Here we go. The cards are being drawn. We're getting into our final match.
And what a way to start things off. Both players with pretty great Pokemon in the active spot. Miloslav featuring that Mew with the free retreat, starting things off, looking at the hand, trying to map it out. See Squawkabilly on the other side, knows that's a pretty explosive opener for Brent.
Miloslav will kick off the turn by benching that Teal Mask Ogerpon EX, using its Teal Dance ability, able to attach an extra grass energy for turn. It does not count as your attachment for turn, and then also gets the benefit of drawing an additional card. Will follow this up, it looks like, with an Earthen Vessel, discarding the Dragapult EX, one of the strongest Dragon-type Pokemon in the format. And this Earthen Vessel will now allow Miloslav to search the deck for any 2 energy cards and add them to the hand.
Yes, seeing the Dragapult in there is a welcomed sight. You have that opportunity now to copy one of the best attacks in the entire TCG, but you still need to continue to build up this board. I believe we saw the Ultra Ball in hand, so finding a Pokemon like that Regidrago V has to be the #1 thing on your mind going first.
It's all about getting that Regidrago V down so you can get into the Regidrago V Star and use its powerful Apex Dragon attack, allowing you to copy the attacks of any Dragon Pokemon in your discard pile. It will be a few energies found here. Looks like the 1 fire and the 1 grass. We know that is the only fire Miloslav will have access to until he begins to take some prize cards.
You'd like to make very good work of that. If it could incorporate that into a turn 2 Apex Dragon, taking a big knockout on any 2 prize Pokemon on Brent's side would feel so valuable. Really cash in on that opportunity that you have, that Brent gave you as you go first.
Yeah, we saw in Miloslav's top 4, it wasn't about being super aggressive. He spent the first couple of turns in most of the games just going for the Cleffa, grasping draw, fill the hand. Will the draws here on this turn 1 lead to him being able to be more aggressive? We do see the energy switch, moving the energy off of the Teal Mask Ogerpon EX over to the Regidrago V Star, attachment of the fire energy to that basic V Pokemon, and a pass of the turn over to Brent Tonisson. What is Brent working with? It looks like he will kick things off, matching Miloslav's Earthen Vessel to discard Dragapult EX with his own Earthen Vessel to discard Dragapult EX.
Anything you could do, I could do better. Lines it up very well. And yes, we saw the rest of Miloslav's hand. It's Ultra Ball, Crass Energy, Professor's Research, 3 fantastic cards to hold on to as you look to get aggressive in the following turns. For Brent now, he is on the clock, has to find an answer here, and you need to take your time with finding all of your resources and mapping out those prizes. It's going to get the news that you're not going to incorporate the Noctowl into the strategy without a Hoot Hoot, and you don't have Radiant Charizard either.
Yeah, Radiant Charizard is one of the key cards in the matchup for sure for Brent. It's a single prize Pokemon that can take 1-hit KOs on your opponent's multi-prize Pokemon, can easily knock out Teal Mask Ogerpon EX, Mew EX, Squawkabilly EX. It can take 2 prizes as a 1-prize Pokemon, which is extremely valuable. Brent may still be able to work it into the strategy later in the game as he begins to take knockouts, and that is when Charizard becomes more and more powerful as the game goes on. But as things stand, a couple of energy added to this hand to start with. We'll see what other options Brent has. With that Squawkabilly EX in the active spot, I can't imagine the hand is too bad.
Right, you always have the bailout button. Squawk and Seize, you have to expect that if this Pokemon's already in play, you have to use this ability.
Actually, this hand, I think there's a couple of Energy Switch.
Oh no.
And those are really important resources. Two Energy Switch
it's
and
all gone.
A boss's orders all hitting the discard pile.
None of the resources you'd like to throw away here, not even an additional relevant Dragon Pokemon to add to the discard pile as well. It's just the Dragapult on this side.
Looks like we do at least see the Regidrago V, but I don't think he drew into a supporter card. He didn't draw a Grass Energy, so this Nest Ball here can't find a Teal Mask Ogerpon to draw any additional cards. It looks like immediately this Nest Ball is going to eye up that Cleffa, which is one of the ideal options in games like this when you are going second.
I'm getting nervous here for Brent now. Yes, you have the Cleffa. You can promote this Pokemon into the active spot, use Grasping Draw, and find some more resources. But if you don't bench at least one Regidrago V right here, honestly, you'd like to have two. You can expect to be knocked out this turn by, even a Haxorus on the other side.
It's definitely possible. I do believe Brent has the Regidrago V, and he also does have the Fire Energy. There is a world where he could have gone for the Motivate. I think that's why we saw him discard those energy cards that he fetched off the Earthen Vessel. But drawing into the Switch as well, this gets him the attachment to the Regidrago V. It gets him into this Cleffa, and it will be a Grasping Draw to refill the hand, looking for some help for the second turn of the game.
I expect to see it with two cards in hand, our double Ultra Ball, now adding in even more resources, including a supporter finally.
Now back over to Miloslav. Will kick it off with the Teal Dance on this Teal Mask Ogerpon EX. Attaches the Grass Energy, draws a card. We do see an Ultra Ball in this hand. Looks like a Professor's Research. Also an Energy Switch. Kind of a awkward hand to have the Energy Switch though, because he'd love to use it to move the energy off the Teal Mask Ogerpon, but he can't use the Ultra Ball.
Chip, what's more important, moving this energy over or finding your Regidrago V-Star here?
What he could do, and he may just play it slow. We saw this so often from Miloslav. Just go into the Cleffa, Grasping Draw, fill the hand. I think that's exactly what we're going to see, but this could be a really big opening for Brent. Something Miloslav could have done was play the Ultra Ball to discard. Well, we're going to see a restart here first, drawing just one more card, and it will indeed be the Research. What I was going to suggest is possibly Miloslav could have Ultra Balled away the Research, keep the Energy Switch, get your Regidrago V-Star, use the Restart, hope to find something, but a risky game I don't think Miloslav was willing to play here in our final match.
It does not line up for his strategy. Does find another Ultra Ball, but I don't see a Pokemon you want to discard Regidrago V-Star in the hand.
Yeah, that's great to get the evolution. A big part of this matchup as well is going to be when does each player use that Legacy Star V-Star power.
Yes, it's typically something that you need to incorporate when you're missing that attack. You're trying to incorporate the energy switches so that you can come out of nowhere and have that big Apex Dragon attack, maybe remove a big threat on the opposite side from your opponent. But we saw a resource battle in the top four from Miloslav. It really could go either way. Yeah,
the general rule of thumb, I feel like, with Legacy Stars, you want to hold off using it as long as possible until, like you mentioned, you're going to miss that attack. If you can get to the end game with just 2 prizes left and you still have access to Legacy Star, it almost feels unlosable at that point. We do see an Ultra Ball from Miloslav. Does have to give up a pretty big resource in that energy switch, but felt pressured to go get down another Regidrago V.
Yeah, is that number 3 now at this point? It's so many of these vital resources. Yes, you can bring them back with the Apex, or with the Legacy Star, but is that really what you want to do right here?
Looks like a Grass Energy will be attached for turn to the Regidrago V. Evolution on the bench to the Regidrago V-Star. Retreating into the Cleffa. Grasping Draw filling the hand up to 5. What did the Grasping Draw yield for Brent on the last turn? He'll now kick off this turn with 8 cards in his opening hand, and things are looking much, much better.
Yes, finally an opportunity to maybe find that Teal Mask Ogerpon, start to accelerate some energies to the board, even discarding another Dragon Pokemon in that Kyurem.
And off this Ultra Ball, it looks like the Giratina V-Star is being eyed up. That's another massive attacker, another attacking option in this matchup.
Yes, that's the attack we typically expect to see in the matchup. When there isn't the rolling iron, reducing the 80 damage, you walk right into that lost impact over and over again, just dealing these huge blows back and forth for 280 damage and taking big knockouts. That's when the resources really start to dwindle away.
If Brent can find the pieces to KO Miloslav's benched Regidrago V-Star loaded up with 3 energy cards, that could be a huge swing in Brent's favor. He does have to make sure he's continuing to establish his board, however, and he will do just that with the benching of this Regidrago V. He does still need quite a bit to pull that off. It looks like Research is going to be the supporter in hand. There's, of course, always the potential of that A-Spec Prime Catcher to get into the mix, the A-Spec that both of these players have chosen to play.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe if there's an opportunity for Brent to only play a 1 Teal Mask Ogerpon match. It moves around from the Miloslav strategy of placing the damage on these 2 Pokemon that will always stick around and then cleaning up with the Dragapult.
And I think this is telling of Brent's strategy on this turn, attaching to the Regidrago V, not attaching to the Regidrago V Star. He knows that it's very unlikely for him to get everything he wants. He's going to play the slow game just like Miloslav. We will probably see yet another grasping draw.
A few more resources to calculate here as we see. Nest Ball, Ultra Ball, a few more ways to find Pokemon or get those Pokemon into the discard pile for the Apex Dragon. But, yeah, you've got to use a few of these resources if you want to make the most out of Grasping Draw.
We do see the Nest Ball will be played, searching the deck for any basic Pokemon, putting it onto the bench. We have yet to see a Teal Mask Ogerpon EX found on Brent's side of the board, and he's hesitant to use it here. And I actually think, is that a fail of the Nest Ball?
I guess so. This might just be the move. You slow down here. I mean, even if you do want to play this Teal Mask Ogerpon, it probably is just going to be a singular copy for the rest of the game. It means that you're going to be limited, and all of your energies are likely going to be shown on the table for the entirety of the game. But if your opponent has to walk into this and can't set up their classic strategy, what do they do?
I wonder if Brent is trying to play around exactly what he saw Miloslav do in Game 3 of Top 4. With those Teal Mask Ogerpons in play, they were able to be hit by the Rolling Iron. They were put to just 10 HP remaining, and it's set up for Miloslav to take a 6-prize turn, KOing Squawkabilly and 2 Teal Mask Ogerpon all at once. Brent is choosing not to play into that strategy. What do you think, Kyle?
Yeah, it makes sense. It is such a slow approach, so it's unusual to see. I don't know if this is a strategy you always go to unless you have 75 minutes, but it's the finals. You gotta show all of your tricks.
That expanded time is certainly a big deal. Miloslav kicks off his 3rd turn with the Earthen Vessel, discarding that Giratina V-Star. A big opening for him as well. You know, it's playing this game of cat and mouse, this game of chicken. Which player is going to be the one to initiate here? Which is going to be the first player to find a gusting card, the Prime Catcher, or the boss's orders?
So many resources already down. You're just waiting to see who will take the first knockout. It doesn't ever line up well to attack into this Cleffa, so bide your time and continue to add up all of these resources. And you see Miloslav using the double Nest Ball here. He can go for a strategy like the double Teal Mask Ogerpon. He's not worried about Hisui and Gudra on the other side. Yeah,
it's a lot more difficult for Brent to set those plays up. Sure, he could go for the Phantom Dive, still deal 200 damage, but then his Regidrago V-Stars are going to be pressured and knocked out almost every single turn. It is going to be the play of 2 Nest Balls. Looks like Miloslav fails the first one, finds a Pokemon on the second one, and is going to fill the bench up with the next copy of Teal Mask Ogerpon EX.
You have to expect that this is going to be an advantage for Miloslav in this match to see all of his energies in front of him, have more opportunities to use different attacks at the right time. The problem, however, is you can't really move these energy cards. 3 energy switch down as early as, what, turn 4 now in this game.
But as long as this slow game plan progresses for both of these players, the less pressure you are put on your resources, the less you need those energy switches, right?
I suppose, yeah.
And if Brent isn't knocking you out every single turn, you don't have to be teal dancing, energy switching, moving those cards around in order to power up your attackers. Now for Miloslav, when is the time to act? When does he pounce? He has so many cards in hand here, it looks like 6 or so. Will he even be able to draw much with the grasping draw? Grass Energy attachment to the Regidrago V-Star, and boss's orders. Now is the time, bringing up the Regidrago V-Star of Brent Tonisson, and Apex Dragon will copy Lost Impact, 280 damage, and that is the first KO of this final match.
Yes, a big game of chicken between these players, but somebody finally blinks, and it makes sense for Miloslav here. You're threatening with that potential to use the Rolling Iron over and over and over again, but your opponent is showing that weakness. They didn't set up a great board. You take advantage of it here now. You take those energies off the board with the Lost Impact. You're feeling very comfortable with the fact that you've got 2 fully loaded Pokemon.
And then now on this turn, Brent will decide to bench a Teal Mask Ogre Pontiac. We will see the use of the Teal Dance, drawing into the Knock Towel. Not a useful card. Gonna send it to the discard pile right away with the Earthen Vessel. Finding 2 energy cards. It will be a grass and a fire found. Of course, needing a fire energy on his Regidrago V in order to get off an attack. Needs to find the evolution to get into the V-Star. Give himself a little bit more HP, a little bit more to work with. As Brent, where do we go from here? How are we going to piece together a win?
Right. Surely you want to take advantage of an opportunity where your opponent presented 280 hit points, the only fire energy that we've seen so far from Miloslav as well. If you can knock this Pokemon out right now with your own Lost Impact from Giratina V-Star, you have to feel pretty good about that. The problem is you also need to get down another Regidrago V, or else you are cooked.
We do see another inclusion here from Brent Tonisson, a card that has become pretty standard in most Regidrago lists, but Miloslav is not playing that Fezandipity EX with its powerful Flip the Script ability.
And this is a spot that Miloslav is not typically used to seeing in this matchup. He just got Iono'd for 4. That never happens. He's always leaving the prize cards on the board, dealing 200 damage over and over again, and compiling for that perfect 6 prize turn. Instead, now has a weaker hand, and maybe it might be difficult to find that fire energy chip.
We see that Flip the Script of the Fezandipity can only be used when a Pokemon was knocked out during your opponent's last turn. Now drawing Brent Tonisson 3 fresh new cards. He does find the energy switch. He has the pieces to get off this attack, but I think he's a little bit worried about how feeble his board may seem after this attack.
Right, is this an opportunity? I guess you have to go for a Legacy Star and find more resources. We don't see a Regidrago V just yet.
There's not too many cards left in Brent Tonisson's deck as well. That is also something to consider here. Sure, he can use the Legacy Star, but then he'll be really running on fumes through the end of this game. He's got plenty of powerful cards in the hand. I do see that Prime Catcher. It's not going to be useful right now. We got to deal with the active more than anything. It looks like it's right around 8
Is that 8?
cards. Yeah, in the deck left at this point. Can thin out maybe one more card. Earthen Vessel or Nest Ball, depending on if there are Pokemon or energy cards still remaining. It looks like we are going to see the flip of that V-Star marker. He's debating it. 7 cards now will be discarded from the top of the deck. Super Rod goes down. Energy Switch. Temple of Sinnoh, not too big of a deal. Researches, I don't think you mind losing at this point. Super Rod, the instant grab, and 1 more card can be added from this discard pile to the hand.
All right. And, you'd think that an energy switch would have to be incorporated at this point of the game. You've seen so many resources used here, and you need to have a backup attacker following this Regidrago V-Star's attack into the other Regidrago V.
Sure enough, energy switch is the grab. That is the find. There is no other Regidrago V-Star. No other V, excuse me, at this point. I think, is Brent really banking on finding the Radiant Charizard from the prizes?
Well, it will be a welcomed sight if he has not disrupted the prizes. I believe we saw the Charizard at the bottom.
We will see that. Take the knockout, and Radiant Charizard was taken, and Super Rod as well. But we do see the 2 energy cards being lost zoned, a basic grass and a basic fire. Now the promote from Miloslav on the Cleffa. Brent has tied this game up 4-4 prizes. Can Miloslav continue to push the prize trade advantage?
And for Miloslav, this has to be about knocking out this Regidrago V-Star and then lining up a final attack. Can you remove a Pokemon like that Squawkabilly to take those last 4 prize cards that you're looking for across 2 turns?
He's got his Regidrago V-Star already with a few energy on it, just needs the fire. We know one was prized. He does play a couple copies of Superior Energy Retrieval. The basic fire energy is still remaining in the prize card, so he is going to need to find Superior Energy Retrieval or Night Stretcher if he wants to attack with this Pokemon this turn.
We saw an early copy of the Superior Energy Retrieval discarded, so if Legacy Star is a part of the mix, surely you could use that resource as opposed to finding the fire energy itself and get plenty more energies to play down. You see yet another Teal Mask Ogerpon added to the hand, hopefully, because I expect to see that bench space filled by Regidrago V if you can find it.
He will add it to the hand. He'll play the Nest Ball, fail that card, just thinning cards out of the hand so that he can use Mew EX's Restart ability. Once per turn, you're able to draw until you have 3 cards in your hand. So he's going to try to thin down the hand as much as possible to get as much value as possible on the draw. It will be the bench of the Teal Mask Ogerpon. 2 cards found for the restart. Does he have a way to get back the fire? Does he have a way to pull off an attack this turn, or will the advantage be pushed back over to Brent Tonisson's side of the board?
Yeah, Chip, this starts to look like a player who's eyeing up a play with a boss's orders, a prime catcher, a rolling iron on to one of these Pokemon.
And that was a huge teal dance right there from Miloslav. Attaches the energy to the Ogerpon, draws a single card, and the single card hit was Professor's Research.
Wow.
That's going to breathe some life into this hand. I do think he discarded the 4th and final energy switch there, but off the research, he's able to find the Night Stretcher.
That fire energy will be very welcomed at this point in time, and now the decision to make is, do you have to overextend here? I don't even know if there's enough deck to use the Legacy Star at this point in time. It gets really tricky when you get down to these late turns.
Yeah, Miloslav, dissimilar to most Regidrago V-Star lists that we've seen, does not play Super Odd. There is no way to refill the deck, so it can be a risky prospect to use Legacy Star a little too early in the game. Night Stretcher will bring back the fire energy. We see a few more kind of irrelevant cards being played. The Canceling Cologne, the Temple of Sinnoh, Text for other matchups, and Regidrago V-Star pushed to the active spot. Which attack will Miloslav use in this situation? It will be the Lost Impact, sending 2 energy cards to the Lost Zone, KOing Brent's only established attacker.
Well, that is a big knockout, and for Miloslav, a breath of fresh air when you see that you are the only person who has that Regidrago down. Hitting for 280 damage is so difficult in a spot like this. For Brent, it would take so many resources. You'd have to genome hacking, copy your opponent's Apex Dragon in order to have a response there, or you have to go an alternate route, Radiant Charizard, and go after something on the bench.
Brent is going to use Super Odd, putting back up to 3 in any combination of Pokemon and basic energy into the deck. It will be Regidrago V, V-Star, and the basic fire energy. Yeah, what does Brent need to set up here? What is the play? How does he take 4 prizes before Miloslav can close out this game?
Yeah, the incorporation of Radiant Charizard feels pretty important at a stage like this, unless you're trying to set up for a 4-prize turn. And just how do you do just that with these limited resources here? It seems like ending the turn with a 2-prize Pokemon in the active spot is game over.
We aren't going to see the Radiant Charizard come down. It is going to be Regidrago V, attachment of the basic fire energy. We're debating benching another Pokemon, Jamming Tower, just to bump the Temple of Sinnoh. Again, cards that are really not relevant for this matchup. Both players playing them for the other matchups in the format, just burning cards out of their hand that they don't want to see anymore at this point in the game. Looks like Iono is in the hand. That's a great option when your opponent's down to just 2 prize cards remaining generally. But Brent has to find a way to get through this Regidrago V-Star, find a way to take some sort of knockout, put on some sort of pressure this turn. Flip the script, Fezandipity being promoted. Prime Catcher to bring up that Teal Mask Ogerpon EX, and it is the Iono shuffling both players' hands, putting them on the bottom of the deck, and then they will each draw a number of cards equal to the amount of prize cards remaining. Brent getting 4, Miloslav only 2.
Well, you see your opponent has 4 grass energy in the Lost Zone, 1 on the Regidrago V, so you take a risk right here, but my goodness, for Miloslav, it is the Professor's Research added to the hand. Might not be exactly what you're looking for, given that Cleffa is in that spot, but if you have a way to boss his orders this turn, that's going to be pretty good.
And I think right away, Miloslav showing the grass energies off of the Earthen Vessel. Brent recognizing with Miloslav still having Legacy Star available, he has no way to close out the game. We're going to pack it up and go to game 2. Miloslav winning game 1 at LAIC.
So much to think about between these two players, and Miloslav comes out on top there. Went first in this matchup and slowed down the pace. Was playing so many energy cards down onto the board, had so many different attackers, and for Brent, really was only able to set up that singular Regidrago V-Star.
I don't know if Brent had the resources remaining. He had discarded a couple energy switch early, so it was probably going to be tough, but if he could have powered up Radiant Charizard that turn, Prime Catcher the Mew, then Iono, maybe he stands a chance. Let's get into the replay here of game number 1 and break down exactly what happened.
As we saw from our players, it was a back and forth trying to establish early on what was going to happen in this matchup, as you have 2 completely different strategies that typically take place here. For Brent Tonisson, it's been all about that aggression with the Giratina V-Star, and on the other side, we've seen that Rolling Iron, but that's not the case this time around. Steals the old strategy back and starts using Lost Impacts.
Yeah, if your opponent tries to play the same game as you when you are sitting on Miloslav's side of the board, sometimes you get to be the one to be the aggressor, and we see the tech cards that Miloslav is playing really paying off here. That Hisui and Gudra V-Star, we didn't see Rolling Iron attack one time, but just the threat of it, the potential of it, changed the way Brent had to play, and because of that, Miloslav was able to capitalize.
So much to think about as we move into this, and holding on to that Legacy Star seals up game number 1. Miloslav would have all the resources, Prime Catcher, Boss's Orders, whatever it takes.
Oh.
We're ready for game 2, but is Miloslav?
Yeah, I don't know if Miloslav is, as we are drawing these opening cards, and the starter is that Kyurem, a card that's really strong against some of the evolving decks in the format. Extremely strong against Lost Box, but not too good in the Regidrago mirror if your opponent, can adequately play around it, of course, and definitely not something you want to be starting here.
And we've talked about having that single prize Pokemon in the active, not the one we were referring to. It can be very difficult to move this Pokemon. It clutters up the bench. It avoids having an opportunity to maybe go for that 6 prize swing with the Trifrost. It's usually something that you can only surprise an opponent with if they don't know what they're doing.
And honestly, it may make things a little bit more awkward for Miloslav if he wants to go into the Cleffa, because now that is 2 1 prize Pokemon in play. Little Cleffa only has 30 hit points. It goes down extremely easily. We could even see a Dragon Laser KOing both Kyurem and the Cleffa all at the same time for Brent. So Miloslav has to consider now. Cleffa has been such an important part of this matchup. It's just an attach and a pass.
And is the energy going to be a problem here, Chip? Because that could lead to Teal Mask getting a little more aggressive in a spot like this. 130 is a number we could certainly reach here.
Brent Tonisson was able to win his top 4 set by KOing his opponent's only Pokemon in play in game number 2 on the very first turn of the game. Could he do the same thing here? I think it's going to be a little bit more difficult, considering that Regidrago V is the Pokemon in the active spot. Brent would have to find his singular copy of Switch in the deck, but it's an option, a path he's going to leave himself open to, I believe.
Yep, it's not in the prize cards and doesn't have to worry about that. Once again, that Noctowl is not going to be showing up in this matchup, but maybe there won't be much of a game here. It depends on what cards Brent has in the hand, and the aggression is showing. Squawkabilly added.
It is possible for Regidrago V to just get off the Dragon Laser KO. We don't have to go for the Myriad Leaf Shower like what we saw Brent do. That's normally the only way you can get off a meaningful attack, but if Brent can find a Fire Energy, a pair of Grass Energy, a couple Teal Mask Ogerpon, and a couple of Energy Switch, this game could be over on Brent's very first turn.
Right, the 3 Fire Energy. Very easy to find that card. Now can go for the Dragon Laser there, and it doesn't really disrupt your strategy. You're already trying to start adding these energies to the Regidrago V and set up your board just go for that classic approach now. Don't worry about rolling iron. Your opponent just had a Kyurem.
Yeah, considering Miloslav's setup here, or lack thereof, we should say, Brent is not going to be pressured very much at all. It is going to be the bench of the Squawkabilly, though, switching into it. So he's committing to this slower game plan already right off the bat.
Motivation. We could motivate the troops, get them ready for next turn. If you see the teal masks in the earthen vessels and the energy switches, you get sad, but it looks like this is going to be a pretty solid play here.
Sending up the Squawkabilly. We do also see the Cleffa in the hand. It is still going to come down. I think with the Squawkabilly going active, we will more than likely just see the Motivate, and it will be 2 energy cards added to this Regidrago V. This is a huge draw here for Miloslav. What is he able to find? Any basic Pokemon? Does he have a supporter? Let's see if we can see that hand.
He had the Professor's Research. It looks like he found the Iono, and that will be a great choice there to restart and try again in this set. But it's looking pretty rough when you see your opponent is already potentially retreating and knocking you out with a Regidrago V.
He does find a basic Pokemon, but it is just the Squawkabilly. No Nest Ball, no Ultra Ball, a few Grass Energy, and he can't use Squawk and Seize. You can only use that ability on your first turn. This is Miloslav's turn 2. He can bench the Squawkabilly and stick it out for one more turn.
He doesn't even want to.
And Brent has the Grass Energy. He draws for turn, retreats, and Dragon Laser takes the knockout. We're going to game 3 here at LAIC.
Is there a better way to write it up for Brent Tonisson? We saw this multiple times moving through the top 8 and into the top 4. These opportunities to take advantage of your opponent's weak starts, and can't help but smirk there, thinking about what he just got away with to move into the final match here.
A gift for Brent Tonisson to give him new life, to give him an opportunity and possibly shift the momentum back into his favor. But now it will be Miloslav with the choice, first or second. We saw him consistently choose second in his top 4 game yesterday in that 60-card mirror with his friend Daniel. Considering Brent's list, is he going to make any sort of change? Will he go second? Will he go first? We'll find out.
He's seen what Brent thought of the matchup, and with Brent making the choice in game number 1, went second and really did not have a great setup there. Drew all the cards, just did not play down the teal masks, wanted to avoid the rolling iron issues, and it didn't work.
We got an update here, Kyle. Miloslav has chosen to go first.
It's a risk, but we love it. This is what we've been looking for. He said in the mirror match he wants to play the slower approach, go second, but this is a spot where maybe he can take advantage of Brent's slower setups and really get aggressive here.
And I think a big part of this decision is because of what he knows he has and what he knows Brent doesn't have. He doesn't have to be scared, Miloslav, of the Hisuian Gudra V-Star from Brent Tonisson. No rolling iron on the left side of the table. And Miloslav also knows that he has that Haxorus, so if the opportunity opens itself up and he can be aggressive, if he can take 2 prizes on the first turn, that is an option that he could try to take advantage of. I'm excited, Kyle. This is what you hope to see for these final matches. A game 3, one last game of the Pokemon TCG to decide it all. One of these players will be the champion, and one of these players will go home with the second place.
We're looking for some strong opening hands from both these players. Hopefully the prize cards aren't too detrimental. We've seen this before, but we could have a game for the ages here lined up.
Let's get down to this table, the fist bump, the game 3. Let's hear it for him, folks in the crowd. Game 3 at LAIC, and Miloslav kicks it off with the opening of Teal Mask Ogerpon EX, the Cleffa in the active for Brent Tonisson, and look at these prize cards, Kyle. A big one for Brent.
Yeah, Brent does not feature many other dragon Pokemon to copy. Really wants to take advantage of that lost impact in the early games. And look at this for Miloslav. He's throwing away 2 precious dragon Pokemon there in the Haxorus and the Giratina.
Both of them being great options moving forward, depending on how things develop for Brent. Now, Brent does start his absolute best starter in that Cleffa. It'll be that 1 prize Pokemon in the active spot. It'll be onto Miloslav to find a Gust, a way to get around it, so Brent may have an opportunity to take a couple of turns to get set up, just like we saw in game number 1. But Miloslav is feeling pretty confident in this spot. Ultra Ball, discarding 2 Dragons. Down goes Giratina V-Star, down goes the Haxorus, and in comes Regidrago V immediately to the bench.
I think we already saw a Squawkabilly in the hand as well, so if you need a little more fuel in this hand, you could go for that Squawk and Seize, draw those additional resources, but maybe that doesn't fit the bill here for Miloslav. If he wants to play that slower game, if he has the supporter, then maybe you don't go that route.
Taking a moment to check all the prize cards. Plenty of time left in this game, over 40 minutes. I don't think we'll have to worry about the clock too much as a factor in this one. So Miloslav taking a moment to make sure he is totally aware of what he does and does not have access to. Indeed, Squawkabilly is in the hand, but perhaps before we see the bird come into play, we will see Nest Ball searching the deck for any basic Pokemon, adding it to the field. It will be Regidrago V. And maybe Miloslav will take pause. It depends on how strong the hand is. Squawkabilly can definitely be a liability.
Right. You don't want to give up those prize cards to an opponent that's already struggling to find ways to knock out your Pokemon. It was a really slow game for Brent on that first game of the set, and then obviously in game 2 you didn't really see too much. I'm a bit surprised that we don't see the Cleffa, as that's typically the Pokemon that's added to the board as early as possible and can be a bit tricky to find later on.
Normally wanting to get into it right away. We will see the board filled up. Energy switch, moving the energy from the active to the bench. Regidrago V, Squawkabilly's Squawk and Seize, discarding the hand to draw 6 fresh new cards. Cleffa was one of those found. Miloslav's not going to feel pressured to get into it necessarily right away. It's pretty unlikely Brent would ever go for a turn 1 knockout. I don't even know if he has the pieces to do so. And we will see another Teal Dance here, drawing a card. It is that basic Fire Energy. We've not seen the attachment for turn.
Right, we've seen both of the Teal Dances now, and the Fire Energy, one of the 2 copies, means that this Regidrago V is just 1 energy away from potentially threatening that Evolution and Apex Dragon on turn 2. This is more likely the strategy that we've seen from most of our Regidrago players, and now it's fully charged.
An extremely strong setup to kick things off here for Miloslav. A fully powered Regidrago V, the bench of the Cleffa. And I think that is going to end this turn here with a pass over to Brent. Let's see what else he has available. Started the Cleffa. That's your best option. I don't see a supporter. I don't see any searching cards. No way to get a Squawkabilly to bail him out.
The Earthen Vessel, Grass Energy, a few more energies in the hand there. But yes, you're right. There needs to be a bit of help now. Take the opportunity to see what you're working with. You're going to find out the Giratina is prized, but if you don't have a setup, it's all for naught anyways.
Checking the prize cards off the Earthen Vessel, discarding the basic Grass. Will take note of any Pokemon or energy cards that are prized. Also looking through to try to figure out what other supporters are available. You want to check for your boss's orders, your energy switches. Is the pink card in there, your Prime Catcher a spec? Do you have access to all that you need?
We'll get some fairly good news that at least this game has the opportunity to be competitive for Brent, so long as he finds a few of these basic Pokemon on this opening turn. I'm nervous though, Chip. I didn't see the rest of the hand, but it didn't seem like it was going to be great.
I think it's 1 Regidrago V, Kyle, and I think that is it.
That's
bench Regidrago V, attach an energy, grasping draw, and then you got to cross your fingers as Brent, because that is an opening that Miloslav would love to pounce on.
Yeah, and it leads to all sorts of issues here. If you could Prime Catcher that Pokemon, you could even just use the Regidrago V and knock out the Cleffa and limit your opponent's draws in a spot like this, damage the Regidrago. We see the Hoot Hoot.
Brent's going to be able to thin the hand out very nicely here, puts that Temple of Sinnoh in play, grasping draw for 6 cards. And let's see if Miloslav will go for this opening. Will he push himself to get the knockout? I do believe he had boss's orders in his hand, so that is a way you can bring up the Regidrago V. We know that Haxorus is already in the discard pile. Does he have the V-Star? Does he have a way to move his active? We'll kick it off with the Teal Dance, attaches an energy, draws a singular card. What is the find? It is the Regidrago V-Star. He has everything to go after Brent's only Regidrago V in play. Normally, Miloslav plays the slow, conservative game, but in this position, he's going to push his advantage, bringing up Brent's only established attacker, and Dragon Pulse takes the KO. discards the top 3 cards, but I don't think he minded too much, especially when the Goodra goes down.
Wow, it ends up being a benefit there. You throw another great dragon Pokemon into the discard pile. You have this huge advantage against your opponent. And what cards did you find off the grasping draw? Can you at least establish some basic Pokemon here?
I think for Brent, to be honest, I mean, he is so incredibly far behind at this point. He doesn't have a Regidrago V in play. He's 2 turns away from establishing the V-Star. He may have to go for just a 3 Radiant Charizard attack game plan from this point.
And you know what? That could be the best option here. You've given up so many prize cards, but finding a way to recycle and go through and find that Radiant Charizard over and over again could be difficult.
So difficult, and especially here with this Ultra Ball, looks like it will be discarding Energy Switch and Super Rod, 2 ways that you would like to refill and reuse that Pokemon over and over again. The fact that Miloslav was able to do this play, and the fact that he still has his V-Star power available, it just puts way too much pressure here on Brent. It almost feels like an insurmountable mountain to climb. He's going to play to his outs. He's going to try to identify some path back into this, Kyle, but I'm struggling to find it.
Right, you can't play down another Regidrago V right now unless you're presenting a threat to your opponent. You have to either slow them down in some capacity, try to lock a Pokemon in the active spot, but with Legacy Star, everything is unlocked. Miloslav will definitely have an opportunity to take 2 more prize cards next turn.
Now, for the first time in this set, we are going to have an opportunity to see the Noctowl have an effect here. Its Jewel Seeker ability will allow Brent to search the deck for any 2 trainer cards and add them to the hand. He could create all sorts of different combo pieces. Of course, you can only use this ability if you have a Terra Pokemon in play, Tealmask Ogerpon, providing that requirement.
Yeah, but what pieces can you find? Yes, you have the Tealmask Ogerpon down. You've already accelerated 1 energy to the board. You need a few more if you want to have a relevant attack, and even then, you're not knocking out this active Pokemon.
Here is the Nest Ball. That is one way to get Radiant Charizard. We also could just see it get Fezandipity EX. Maybe Brent needs just a little bit more, needs to draw some cards, needs to find something else here off the flip the script. Nest Ball will be one of the grabs, gets to get any other trainer card. There were already quite a few Energy Switch in the hand. Perhaps just finding some energy cards could be nice, with the Earthen Vessel being levied as a potential option.
Even the miracle play of a Mew and coming up to a genome hacking and copy your own Giratina V-Star would have been great, but that's in the prize cards. All of the options slowly dwindling away on Brent's side, trying to come up with a plan to take down this Pokemon or at least stay competitive here.
We are going to see Nest Ball being used. This will be telling of Brent's plan the rest of this turn. It is going to be the Tealmask Ogerpon EX. Earthen Vessel will find the energy card necessary, but at the cost of discarding an Energy Switch. I think an Energy Switch went down to the Ultra Ball as well. These are incredibly valuable resources.
So tough to line this up. Of course, see what you can find off the top of the deck. You have an additional resource with the Teal Dance from Tealmask Ogerpon, but you have to find an attack here.
Gotta piece something together. There's the attachment. We will see the draw once Miloslav is done with the shuffle. 1 card to be found. What was it? It's an Ultra Ball attached for turn to the Tealmask Ogerpon EX. Energy Switch. Are we just going to hit with the Myriad Leaf Shower?
I mean, this is something you have to do. It's if you want to play down a Regidrago V, you have to present a threat. In combination with the Iono, there's an opportunity to catch Miloslav slacking. He doesn't have the resources, and yes, he can take the knockout on the Tealmask Ogerpon, but if he wants the Regidrago like we think he does, it has to be the Legacy Star for Boss's Orders if it's not in this new hand.
We do see 2 Regidrago V on the bench, so Brent is guaranteed to at least have the option to find a Regidrago V-Star on the next turn. Brent was also able to find the Prime Catcher. Likely not useful at this point. I have to imagine we're trying to go for that 2-hit knockout into this active Regidrago V-Star, deal with it, and maybe leave Miloslav in a compromised position. It is actually going to be the Prime Catcher. I think is Brent trying to just buy a turn here. Miloslav has not used his V-Star power, so I think this is Brent saying, hey, if you want to get off and attack this turn, you're almost definitely going to have to use your V-Star power.
Right, you have to force the action there. Maybe your opponent over discards too many valuable resources and it opens up a window, but that's not it yet.
Prime Catcher found for Miloslav already, the easy way to switch out of this position, finding a couple more energy cards off of this Earthen Vessel, discarding the useless Canceling Cologne, a Fire and a Grass now added to the hand. That is the perfect card to find off an Iono, Kyle.
Yes, and look at this. With the Earthen Vessels, you continue to draw with the Teal Mask Overpawn. You're getting more resources down. You have a secondary Regidrago V-Star ready to go now. Prime Catcher moving up his Pokemon.
And this is going to be 2 prizes left now for Miloslav. And even has a research. We're not done. Still able to discard the hand to draw 7 fresh new cards.
It's not about what you find here, it's about what resources you can discard. Sees plenty of Dragon Pokemon, could open up even more attacks to potentially close the game out. Does not see them, it's just going to be the Haxorus going for a big knockout here with the Dragon Pulse.
And I've got to say, Kyle, this feels like checkmate. Miloslav has not used Legacy Star. He can easily grab Prime Catcher, easily grab an energy card. Brent is going to take one last look, but I think he knows the situation. Miloslav with a grin on his face. He is so close to becoming our champion. And Brent doesn't think he can do it, extends the hand, and Miloslav Posledni becomes the Latin American International Champion.
What a match between these players. It was truly a battle that they were facing off with. Even before they sat down at this table, what was the best strategy going into this mirror match that had so many differences? Miloslav took so many advantages in the deck building process, added all of these special tech inclusions. We saw the Haxorus. We know the threat of the Rolling Iron from the Hisuian Gudra. All of these things led to an immaculate victory here and his first international crowning.